It's time.
All right, here we go.
Cocktail show.
Get ready to have a good time.
Let's have a good time.
This is exciting, isn't it?
Oh, I like that.
Hello, testing.
Welcome aboard the Dreamliner.
It's the only way to fly.
Wow.
I've allotted 1 hour for recreational activity. There's no time for irrelevant conversation. Fun will now commence.
Cocktail show.
Gary.
Here's a young speaker who is really in demand.
Don't let that go to your head, Gary. But wait, there's more.
I'm the guy.
Finger guns.
Gary Meier.
3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Garry Meier Show, Cocktail Hour, live.
Cocktails. Ooh, drinks.
We're streaming live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central.
On a winter Friday in 2025. Gary, Leslie, or Ryan will tell you which one in just a moment. But in the meantime, of course, no matter where you are, it's time for a digital mimosa. And since you're here, you know that the only place to stream along live is
The GarrForceLIVE YouTube channel.
YouTube. Subscribe to the GarrForce Live YouTube channel.
All of the past editions of the Cocktail Hour can be replayed on the GarrForce Live YouTube channel.
Please like and share the show on all the social media channels.
Comments during the live show, wherever we are streaming, can be seen in our virtual studio
And we may show them on the screen.
and or talk about them.
Thank you for your attention.
Now, fasten your seatbelts. It's time to go wheels up on the GarrForce Live.
Live!
Live. Here we go. On America's podcast. Boom. Shakalaka. Appreciate it, Alan, and the Puerto Rican doorbell, Todd Pickering, as we battle the winter doldrums the best we can, and the best we can is with booze. And here is how this works. I kick the tires, and then we're going to light them up, and we could use that heat in a lot of the country right now, or in a few days. It's going to get really cold. And now this woman right here, Leslie Kyling, has the final sequence on the cocktail show, which is the removal of her wine condom. Hello, Leslie.
Hi, everybody. I was at Benny's today and I found this Vigilance on sale, which was a pretty darn good buy. And look at that. Condom.
Buoyant?
Oh, I'm hoping.
All right.
go.
Well,
Ready?
here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
Ooh.
line drive.
Ooh, better than the SpaceX rocket.
Aw.
Aww.
Although, you know, with all the people worried about UFOs and what are they now, UAPs, that had a lot of people kind of concerned that maybe this was the one.
This was the one what?
Like, this is the aliens actually showing up. When you saw that thing breaking up over,
Okay.
I don't know, New Zealand or wherever it happened, but
Yeah. All right. Well, cheers. This is why we drink.
oh, here, let me actually pour this, sweetie, here.
All right.
Cheers, my dears.
And we were commenting before the mics went hot and the camera went hot that there was still daylight, a little bit of daylight, and there's still, yeah, I can see it behind you. It's still there.
Yeah.
So that's good.
You can see that. Yeah, the glow.
Another couple of weeks, it'll be really noticeable.
Oh, golly. I am so ready. Is it
Really?
Yeah.
Wait,
So what's the
it's
big
coming.
one? When do we start breaking toes, kneecaps,
Well,
hips, and
I
that-
break.
and
I
not
break
in the bad way?
Okay, I break winter's toe on December 22nd because now we're marching into more daylight. And now we got to wait till, I think there's usually a thaw around Valentine's Day. So maybe we'll take out a kneecap on
Okay.
Valentine's Day, and then we'll
Okay.
proceed to the rest of the winter body and break it all up as we go along.
Okay.
How does that sound? All right.
It's fair
But-
as long as we know the ground rules.
Screen door.
Oh,
Is
there
that
we go.
right?
Yep.
All right. Okay, let's see who's here. And we start off with Keely Ann. Dan McNeil, I'm so excited. My schnauzer and I wet ourselves. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Dan taught me the difference between hearing versus listening. Oh,
Wow.
okay. Yeah, Dan's coming up in
Oh.
just a minute here.
Well, Is there a history with Dan?
We're going to find out. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
By the way, she did look like she was dressed as a porn awards show host, allegedly. Who?
I don't know who we're
Who are
talking
you talking about, Keely?
You know what? It's funny. People quote me about, with things that you and I have said on our shows. I always look like such a dope because as soon as it comes out of our pie holes, it's in the ether.
It's gone. Okay, we don't know who is it. Hello, Martin from British Columbia. And Greg, great big old howdy from Decula, Georgia, where it may be cold, but it's warmer than it is by the Great Lakes. Yeah.
We're in the 40s still at this very
Okay,
moment.
a little break, but
there's
now,
a breeze.
yep, Mother Nature is just ping-ponging the bejesus out of us this winter. Lloydster, listening later. Good luck with the voice. Thank you. I think I'm around the corner on this flu.
You know what's cool, though? We had Tom Skilling on not so long ago, and Tom warned us, and this is where, he is the voice of weather reason, and he said, we've got a La Nina thing going on here,
Up
and
and
what
down.
it's going to mean is fluctuation.
Yeah, very quick fluctuations. And we're going to get fluxed about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in a large part of the country. Cindy from Carlsbad, CA, where I can watch the podcast from my deck with the ocean as the background. Yeah, beautiful day here. Yeah,
So
okay,
jealous.
it's California. Brian, I'm doing the Garry Show Shuffle. It's Friday. Welcome back, Garry and Leslie. Thank you, Brian. And
We
Brian
are the Gare shuffling crew, shuffling.
Okay, you're getting ready here for Dan McNeil. Okay, I played on the pre-board show today, Steve Perry's "Oh Sherry," and that is part of the Bon Journeyed repertoire because Brian sent us a clip of them doing this on stage, which to have a singer in their band that can hit those Perry notes, that's pretty impressive.
Oh, and he does it flawlessly. They had quite a little turnout at this last event they did. I think it was last Saturday.
Yeah, and if by little turnout you mean sold out, you're right.
It was huge. Okay,
Yeah.
little. Huge.
Yeah, little sold out is what it was called.
Yeah.
Samantha has her mocktail of orange juice and cranberry juice. Cheers. Happy Friday. Yes. We're halfway through the month. Kathleen from Naperville, Illinois. Welcome back, Garry. All systems go. Yes. I don't think I hacked it all today. That's a sign.
Really?
Of course, I haven't talked to anybody.
You if you have to. So.
Okay. Fingers crossed. Brenda, hello, all former Naperville residents. I escaped to Tennessee about a year ago. So glad I can still connect with the GarrForce. We're glad you're back here too, Brenda, at least through the net.
And with that, for our friends who are out of state, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell some expats, and share the word. We love to reconnect.
Like Kevin from Northwest Indiana. And did you notice I got a vest on? I'm very Yellowstone-y.
You
tonight.
are. Are you wearing cowboy boots?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I'm not, because that would be clumsy sitting here. Nobody can see them. And
you've got your Murphy slippers on instead.
Yeah, exactly. Banana Man, thank you. I do feel better, Banana. And Greg, now let's all behave ourselves and show Mr. Meier the respect he deserves. I don't. I really don't. But thank you. Yeah. And Sandy from backwoods of West Michigan. Sounds like all our schnauzers are in for a deep freeze. Yeah. Keep it bundled for the next several days. Killing mosquitoes. We're killing bugs. That's good.
There you go.
I know it's winter. What are we complaining about? If we don't like it, we shouldn't be living in northern climates. And we got to kill bugs and things. So we got to put up with this, right?
I have some walnuts that are aging out and I can't use them in baking anymore. So I'm feeding the critters this time of year. I figure I'm going to help them get through. And that's going to make me feel better about myself.
Okay. And Ted, warm 49-degree F in Huntley, Illinois. We're all getting a little break, but then she's going to slam us. Hey, I got to ask you, Leslie, you said you went to the post office today and they didn't have any stamps.
Stamps.
All right.
The girls actually made that announcement. Anybody here wishing to buy stamps? We are out. We are 100% out of stamps. Now
And
they
did
can
they
still.
did they have any decaf coffee? Did you ask for that?
And all I could think about was, this is Garry going to Starbucks. You try and get. And
No
that's
stamps, not one stamp.
And I was up at the counter at the point where they made this announcement, apparently again. And I went, well, this is kind of like McDonald's running out of burgers. And the girl just,
That's all you do. It's
she
the
looked
post
at me
office.
with like, there was
Oh.
poison in that. I'm just, I don't want stamps. I just wanted to send off last week's winner's prize. So sorry, last week's winner, Tim. Your prize will be arriving on Tuesday or so.
Okay, and we'll preview what is going to be given away later in the show in just a few minutes. But let's bring on our guest. What do you say? Well, let's. Don is checking in from Tennessee. I see Ro. She's here every week. Tundra Blitz. No stamps. That's what they do. Yes. And Donna wanted to get the car washed today. Very long lines. Our car is just it's all salt.
Yep.
It's just caked, and that drives me crazy. But it's either snowing, too sloppy to do it, or too damn cold. So what are you going to do? And Buddy Bear Car Washes, that's where you go for those. Look who's here. Dangerous Dan McNeil.
Hey, peace and happy cocktail hour, everybody. It's good to see you, Garry and Leslie and everybody. And yeah, you would think the post office would have stamps. It's not too tall of an order to expect that from it.
And Dan, I don't know if you know, but Mr. Meier goes to Starbucks regularly and orders coffee, albeit decaf, and
The whole place goes nuts because they don't have it ready. And my philosophy is, you just sell coffee. Shouldn't you have giant vats of it in the basement? You just pump it up all day?
Why decaf, Garry?
As you get older, you want the ticker not to have to overdo itself.
Okay, I
So,
appreciate that, but why pay for premium decaf? That's like paying $15 for a 6-pack of O'Doul's.
Because
if it's not going to get the plane in the air, why spend the big money?
Okay, because I get gift cards for my birthday and Christmas, and I just run them through the year.
Gotcha.
That's the reason. You're right. Otherwise, that's expensive. So, how have you been, brother? We have laid radio pipe together over the years, and I haven't seen you in a long time. And then I hear you have a book out, and I thought, well, there's a good excuse to have Dan on. And the book is I Bear Witness. It is a thorough drubbing of this organization from the last 40 years. But Dan, if you go and you do touch upon some history, if you go back 60 years, the stats are even worse for this team.
One of the greatest myths in Chicago sports history is how good George Halas was. Because other than the championship in 1963, and you got to give credit to somebody anytime they win one championship. But other than that one, there was a long stretch of very subpar Bears teams Halas coached, and he was even worse as a personnel evaluator, and he kept making people mad well after he stopped coaching following the 67 season when he hired Jim Dooley. He continued to frustrate the best players in the history of the franchise. Butkus sued the Bears, Sayers sued the Bears, and Ditka left kicking and screaming. It's a Bears tradition. So yes, they have been awful for a long, long time. It's a family tradition.
It's like shooting ducks in a barrel. It's an easy thing to do, to cherry pick some of the stats. And one of them that jumped out at me, Walter Payton joined the team in 1977?
75.
75. Okay. In 77, they made it to the playoffs after he joined in 75. That's what it is, right?
Yes.
And you said in the book that in 1977, they go to the playoffs. That was the first time they made the playoffs since 1963.
Yes. And that included the careers of Butkus and Sayers, who were drafted together in the first round in 65. How do you not win with Butkus and Sayers? At least once you would think they would win 9 or 10 games. and squeak in there, but they never did. Yeah, that's a long drought. And Peyton was just majestic in 77, his MVP season, his third in the league. It's unfortunate he didn't win more MVP trophies. I think people just expected Peyton to touch the ball 400 times every year and dazzle. But yeah, the Peyton stuff was some of the most bittersweet stuff I wrote in I Bear Witness. Not all of it was easy to record.
And it says in the book that you had a falling out with him that never got corrected. What was that falling out?
We were teammates at The Score, the sports radio station in the late 90s. He joined the station, and we always had been very amicable. First time I interviewed Walter, he called my show on his own because he wanted to disagree with something we were arguing with callers about regarding Michael Jordan. But yeah, he was an employee of the radio station, and he had a thing in his contract where he was not expected to sign autographs at shows we did in establishments. And that didn't agree with several of us. And we had a philosophy at the radio station to be grassroots level and touch the people. And if sponsors who are paying big money want to shake hands with Walter Payton and get an autograph for their 3-year-old kid, so I bitched about it. I bitched about it on the air, and we argued about it on the telephone a time or two. But shortly after this whole thing happened, he got sick, and I lost my window to call. I figured he had bigger things to worry about than me anyway. But yeah, that was tough to not be able to be a part, as weird as it sounds, of his demise, because we'd reached that level, I think.
Why did he not want to sign autographs?
He didn't want to be taken advantage of from a merchandising standpoint, where people say they just want an autograph for somebody and they go and sell the memorabilia. There are a lot of ex-jocks who are like that, and I understand it to a degree, but I think you have to use common sense when not agreeing to sign an autograph, for crying out loud. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult.
Let's go back to Papa Bear Hallis. He bought the Bears in the 20s for $52. And I don't think he spent any money after that, after he initially bought the team. Is this the saying is a fish rots from the head back? And this organization, it's George Hallis and family, where the whole thing just keeps rotting from this family back, right?
Yeah, they're good business people, believe it or not. It's impossible. I shouldn't say impossible. You can try it if you want, but it would be fruitless to debate their business acumen. Their franchise value is in the top 10 in the NFL, and they haven't won a playoff game since 2010. That's a long drought, and they continue to sell out the building, and people line up for the product. So we enable this football team. We really do. We have given them a license to fail. And because of that, Virginia McCaskey, who's been empowered since her husband Ed died in 2004, just continues to employ her idiot sons. The late Michael McCaskey, who passed away early during the pandemic, and George McCaskey, and Ted Phillips, who is a pseudo son of Virginia's. He's hired basically to crunch the numbers and keep her idiot kids in line.
And this team is really just their inheritance, and that's why they won't sell it, or there's never any talk about them selling, right?
Well, other than the 7 million people who root for them, there hasn't been talk of selling. I asked George McCaskey about this 5 years ago, and I thought he was going to stab me in the neck with a pencil. It was, I would have wished he did, though, by the way. But yeah, they're not happy about that as a topic, but it is a topic. You know, Virginia's 102 or 103. Math is not on her side. And when she passes, the 7 living children of the 11 kids Virginia and Ed had will have to vote. There's one additional son who's alive, but he doesn't have voting rights. He is not competent. And and I don't mean that in a joking way. Some might say most of the Bears, McCaskey's, are not competent, but this is in a different way. So there's an odd number, so they may vote. So there is a reason to hold out hope when Virginia passes that there will be a sale, because I don't know if it's going to change until they do sell.
The ownership of a sports team is pretty much a toy for billionaires now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a toy for billionaires, but most of the time, Gary, they have other businesses. You know, Robert Kraft can afford to treat the New England Patriots like a hobby if he wants to, because he owns freaking Gillette. He's made some money. He doesn't have to worry about not spending and arguing with players and coaches over salaries. And that's going to be the interesting thing now, to see if the Bears decide to pony up and pay the going rate for great NFL head coaches. If they think they're going to get Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, who seems to be the flavor of the year, they're going to have to spend more than the $6 or $7 million they probably think they want to pay their next coach.
Is that the main problem of this team, that they don't spend money in the right places? They don't want to spend money. You talk about this in the book. Their facility over the years has been crap. And the 85-86 Bears, the last time they won 40 years ago, a Super Bowl, that should have been a dynasty. And that thing quickly, or it fell apart shortly thereafter. I don't know how quickly, because I blocked a lot of it out, but it was not a dynasty.
No, it wasn't. That was a good catch on your part, because it wasn't quickly. They did win some more divisional titles and got back to the NFC Championship game after the 88 season. They got pumped in it by the 49ers, who went on and won the Super Bowl. But yeah, it's not been anything what we thought it was going to be. And spending money has always been an issue. These were the 85 Bears. After the 85 Bears, they still had to bus to nearby local high school fields or indoor facilities like the Great Neck Lakes Naval Station up north near the Wisconsin border on a cement floor to practice. The bubble in Lake Forest, when they had a bubble, collapsed in the late 90s because Michael McCaskey decided to spend $2 million on repairing it instead of $10 million to fix it. So eventually the roof collapsed. Fortunately, there were no Bears players in it when it did. But yeah, they're cheap, and they've hired some terrible people. They have made some colossally stupid hires for coaches and for general managers. And this is not an opinion. This is widely regarded to be the truth from people who understand this stuff. They have hired people who were in no position to be hired as head coaches, like Matt Nagy. He was not ready for that. Maybe someday he'll be a good head coach. He wasn't ready for it here 5 years ago.
And it seems like they buy time by getting a new quarterback. That buys them 3 years, or a new head coach that buys them 3 years. So that cycle continues. Is that part of it?
Yeah. Anytime you draft a new quarterback, you get to reboot. You're given a little bit of a grace period. Not so much as you used to in the NFL. There have been 11 coaches hired or fired in the last 10 years after just one season. We used to never see that. They'd always give the guy at least a couple years to see if he can get it figured out. But the Bears, it was surprising to me they pulled the plug on this guy Eberflus this year, because they've never done that during the season. So there are a lot of factors that go into this. And they still did win in the late 80s, just not getting to the promised land. They didn't get back to a Super Bowl. And most of the 85 guys tell me their best chance to do it was 87, when they had a real good season in 87, but got tripped up by the Redskins for the second straight year.
It's interesting when you compare them to other teams like Green Bay, who's had 2 back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and the Steelers, who have had, 3 coaches in 50 years. And then you look at the Bears stats, they've got 30 quarterbacks in 30 years, 10 coaches in 15 years, that kind of thing. That can't be good.
Yeah, you're so right about that. I mean, stability helps. And I know in Pittsburgh right now, there's a lot of howling about Mike Tomlin And whether 18 years without, a second Super Bowl title are enough, it's kind of like the Lovie Smith thing we had here for a few years. He was a good defensive coach. His teams were well prepared and his teams won consistently, but they just didn't win in January. And regularly it was the offense. So you got the reboot in 17, as you mentioned, with Mitch Trubisky. You get it again in 21 with Justin Fields, and you had it again in 24 with Caleb Williams. And I think, he showed some sparks this year, but I am in no way ready to say this is 100% the right guy. I am not convinced of that. I'm not convinced he's the wrong guy. I think he has a better chance of being good than bad, but there's no reason to believe he's going to be a great quarterback yet.
This is a team that is in the third largest city in the country, and it plays on a field that's operated by the Chicago Park District. And now they're parading around this. We want a new stadium. They haven't paid for the renovation of the last stadium. So I guess the taxpayer is just a piggy bank to these people. Why don't they just build their own stadium and quit begging for money?
They can afford it. There's no doubt. Well, you know why? Because they don't have to. Because most mega corporations use tax dollars. We don't bitch about it when it's industry because we don't get mad at industry. We don't sign up to watch industry perform. We simply use the products on occasion. But I don't think there would be a reason to expect anything other but continued political football with this stadium issue. It makes sense to build in Arlington Heights for the people of Illinois, not just for the Bears. It makes sense, but making sense and the Bears don't always go hand in hand. I don't know who it was at the Loop who coined this phrase I heard years ago. Just when you think you've seen it all in radio, go to work one more day. That's life with the Chicago Bears. Just when you think you've seen they can't get any dumber than this, they may have the ability to beat it.
I'm going to read some things out of the book here and have you comment on them. AstroTurf was a reprehensible product that never should have been deployed by NFL teams or gone unchallenged by the Players Association because the Bears played on artificial turf for many years and was basically a carpet on concrete. And that just pummeled the players.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was a very, thin, maybe a quarter of an inch, a third of an inch of carpet over concrete. That's exactly what it was. And it tore skin off of the forearms. I actually played on it one time and it was awful. It was awful on the knees. It was awful on, any part of your body. It was getting thrown down on concrete. Even when you're wearing pads, is not a pleasurable experience. And you think about the beatings guys like Peyton used to take. I mean, he'd touch the ball 40 times a game and get thrown on that crap, and it was a reprehensible product. It's shocking the league let so many teams get away with it as long as they did.
You said you played on that turf. Was that when you were a walk-on in '92? I remember.
It wasn't. Yeah. Yeah, Gary. I know. Yeah. I don't like to go into the Uncle Rico glory days section of the scrapbook too often, but it came up. It came up in conversation. It was at the University of Illinois in 1980. When I was playing junior college football for a little while. We had a game against the Illini freshmen there. And so it was fun.
In the book, it says players had to fight for every dollar, and it's believed only two Bears, Walter Payton and Jay Hilgenberg, ever got to $1 million a year in annual salary. Now, this is 40 years ago. What was the going price for marquee players in other leagues?
Great question. There weren't a ton of $1 million players then, but there were some organizations that were very, very quick to meet the rising demands. And the 49ers I would use as the classiest organization, maybe in all of sports, maybe not just the NFL. They paid Montana and Rice and a lot of other people. They paid their coaches. They treated their players with respect. When they won a championship, Those players received their championship rings in Hawaii on the beach. And the Bears went to a converted Holiday Inn in Highwood and got their rings, which were a fraction of what they were supposed to be because the McCaskies slighted them $1,500 that were supposed to go toward a $10,000 ring. So they had to, or $5,000, yeah. So they had to reduce the specs. What was supposed to be 14 karat gold became 10 karat gold, Gary.
Yeah, okay. It was, I'm going to read this and have you comment. It was a tired record, and almost everybody was fatigued by the same predictable choruses, except for the ardent Ditka-philes, guys in Coogie sweaters that draped over their sausage-filled bellies. Ditka was a hero no matter what he did, because that whole 85-86 team was personality. It's like a hit TV show. You've got great writers and great cast. And when that comes together, and that's what happened with the Bears, talent and a lot of personality, and it was the thing in the city.
Yeah, it sure was. I mean, 40 years ago, for those who weren't old enough to, remember it, I feel bad for you, because in Chicago, nothing I can remember sparked civic pride like that. And the Bulls certainly were a huge part of our city's pulse in the 90s, as the Blackhawks were in more recent years. But the Bears galvanized this city in a way no other team had. They did have that color, that flash. And Ditka had that, Chicago tough. It wore so thin, so fast on his players. But he was embraced by most of this community for a long, long period of time, and probably should have been fired a little earlier than he was. They went 5-12. They didn't play 17 games. They only played 16 still back in his last year of 92 when I was a walk-on.
Yeah, the percussion that came off that team, the TV shows they all did. Ditka did this TV show on Sundays. It really was classic, because it was all these fans in the Bears paraphernalia sitting there. Coach, I would have taken the field goal at that point. I mean, it was a Twilight Zone episode, but it was real.
It sure was. And always a compliment to the coach before a guy gets to his football point. Coach, I'll never forget the blizzard of 67. You saved my daughter. We went off half-day road, and you were there. And hey, when you going to move Zorich to linebacker? I'll hang up and listen for my answer.
It was just all working. The percussion, the juju, it was great. It was when Jordan and Pippen were on the Bulls, and I called them the Black Beatles, because that's what it was. When they went anywhere in the country, everybody was looking at the Bulls at that time.
Yeah, no question. It was, and I think it was tough for Walter Payton too, to see Jordan get so much love and get supported by his organization, even though Michael didn't think he was supported. He was. The Bulls were a classy organization, and they had good people in place, even though they weren't always the most likable people from a front office standpoint. They were successful. And Walter struggled with that. He really didn't know what to do with his life once he took the helmet off, Gary. He was a lost guy and a very troubled man. He was a tortured artist. Nothing he was ever going to touch would flirt with the same level of excellence with which he played football. And it haunted him terribly.
And it's not easy to win a Super Bowl. That's not a big revelatory statement. But how do the Patriots and the Chiefs do it? What is the secret sauce that they have?
Tom Brady had a lot to do with it with the Patriots, and certainly Belichick too. And you're right. It needs to be said more often that it's not easy to win a Super Bowl, because I think so many people just think you roll out of bed and these things come your way if you're good, and that's not how it works. And one of the candidates for this Bears job is Mike McCarthy, who recently was fired by the Cowboys. He's a former Packers coach. So you have meathead Bears fans who don't want anything to do with McCarthy because he had the audacity to coach in evil Green Bay. And It's so frustrating. And if I were more invested, see, the Bears have been a cash cow for me. I'm not going to bullshit anybody. The Bears have been very good for me from a financial standpoint. It's my favorite sport by far. And in Chicago, you're allowed to talk about it year round, 365, 24/7. No one's going to get mad at you for talking Bears on the radio. And I benefited from that enormously. So, but I am not an over-the-top fan. I know where the bodies are buried. When you know what people have been through and when you have heard about all of these backhanded dealings behind the scenes, it's tough to wear the colors, man. I just can't do it anymore.
Okay, and Dick Butkus, Bear great Dick Butkus, you said as a human was pretty much a turd all the time. Even though he had great success and riches from that game, he was just not pleasant to be around.
No, Dick Butkus was an asshole. I saw him be rude to people so regularly. And, it's one thing to behave like a caveman when you're on the field. I don't agree with everything he did, but in that era, if you actually literally bit a player, it was called acceptable. He spat on players. That was considered acceptable. But to act like that, not spit at, but to act so above it all, away from the game, when you're supposed to be blue-collar Chicago and you're too cool for the room. And I never found him to be a very interesting guy either. I was an intern at WGN Radio in 85 when the Bears were reacquired by GN, and Ditkus. Sound like George McCaskey. Ditkus, get your mouth shut, jerk.
That's your IQ.
Yeah. Here's your IQ, buddy. Ditkus. Oh, God. How have you been, Gary, other than overpaying for decaffeinated coffee on occasion?
Okay, I'm fine. Just coming off a little flu. I know you're concerned, but who isn't? And we were there. The other thing about the way we got to do radio, it doesn't exist anymore. We were there when it was at its zenith, and to see it and then and now, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, it's unrecognizable, and I'm grateful. I was mad for a long time. I was bitter of that, technology kind of came along and kicked the business right in the testicles and is still kicking us. And then the pandemic didn't help 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago now. Radio is a shell of its old self. But
I don't know. It doesn't have to be entirely. I understand technology has crept in and taken some of the audience, but my God, you're still on the air. Still fight then. If you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And spend the money to get talent in there who is going to, bring people in. I can't tell you who half the talkers are anymore. I listen to the sports yappers just to monitor news. And there are a few guys I truly root for in sports radio. A few guys I like to root against as well. But, who's the real talent? Ray Stevens going to get it done on LS in mornings now that they've gone in another direction than Steve Cochran? I don't know. When are Bruce Wolf and I going to get a shot at that morning show?
Now you're going inside baseball. All right.
Yeah.
Now in the book, just to wrap things up, you do mention some encounters I had with a Chicago Bear, Steve McMichael. Right?
Yeah, I was so happy my publisher and editor, Rick Kempfer, reminded me of this story back in the spring. I'd forgotten it because I was never threatened by McMichael, but I was scared shitless by him several times, and I saw him beat up Kevin Butler once, and I didn't want to be the victim of a McMichael.
In his prime, he was a wall with lungs.
He thought you were scoping out his first wife, Deborah.
We were at a nightclub, and I was just sitting there having a drink, and he was a few feet away. And the next thing I know, he's got a knife out, and he's choking me. Got my shirt tightened around my neck, and he's got a knife out. You looking at my wife? And I'm thinking, well, I'm just kind of looking around the room. I mean, what? And then he kind of laughed it off. And then there was another event, a charity event. I remember it was a charity event we're at, and he comes over to me and he has a gun. He pulls a gun on me. Hey, brother. And then I'm like, okay, I mean, what did I do? What is the problem here?
Well, and if anybody wanted to be looked at, it was Deborah McMichael. I mean, she was like Steve. She was, and they divorced in 99 or 2000. She liked wrestlers, not former football players trying to become wrestlers anymore. She wound up getting married to Stone Cold Steve Austin. But Deborah, she was fit, she was attractive, and she was enhanced. Big fakies, and that's why you'd get those, so people look at you, right? You don't get those so people don't look at you. And McMichael he's a very jealous man. And his wife, Misty, his current wife, because I talked about that with her. I was at McMichael's about 3 weeks ago. Keith Van Horn and I went out right around Christmas. And I told Misty, because they want to read some of the stuff to Steve. I said, there's stuff about him being a jealous husband that you may want to take a pass on reading to him. And she said, I've been busting his balls for 25 years about being a jealous husband. And it's funny that he used to sing Give Me 3 Steps at the Chicago 6 shows, the Leonard Skinner song, which is about a jealous husband. It was Dancing with Linda Lou. Well, McMichael, he was a scary dude. I'm glad it was you, Garry, and not me on the other end of that knife or gun, because he's a frightening human being.
Well, he's not in good health at this point, which it's sad to see. I mean, he's a shadow of his self as far as physicality. And how's he doing at this point? I mean, it's been a long road here to get any kind of hope, and I don't think there is a lot, right?
No, there isn't. ALS is unbeaten. I was surprised so few people were aware of ALS, and I've not had, until Steve, anybody close to me who was victimized by it. I saw it once when I was 25. I'll try to be precise and short. For those of you who don't know, it is a complete inability for the muscles to respond to signals that are sent from the brain by nerve networks. It completely shuts down every muscle in your body. The last muscles to go are your eye muscles. And until about 6 months ago, he was able to read and speak via computer. Your eyes fix on a letter long enough, the computer reads that, and that it punches it in, and you write sentences one letter at a time by just eye movement. Steve hasn't lifted his arms in 18 months, hasn't spoken in longer. And it's so weird when you visit with somebody who cannot give back. They're totally aware of everything you're saying. Their mind is completely in check. This is not dementia. This is your body's inability to move. It is complete paralysis of everything.
Yeah.
He's been operating on machines for several years now, and Misty keeps him pretty well medicated. He slept for 2 of the 3 hours we were out there. They get him a little THC drip for his pain, because Mongo was always a big shouldn't say always, but I always enjoyed smoking a doob or 2 with Mongo, and now he can do it legally and not feel guilty if he ever did in the past. I don't think he did.
All right. The book is I Bear Witness, Dan McNeil. If you want to read about the past 40 years of the Chicago Bears, he's got every stat you can imagine in there and more. Dan, always a pleasure.
Garry, cheers. Thank you for the invitation. And if I have 30 seconds, I want to share a story about your humanity, if I can.
What did I do?
You reached in your pocket and offered me whatever I wanted when I was just screwing around. I was a $25,000 a year, producer trying to get weekend shifts at the AM Loop. And the fact that Steve Dahl and Garry Meier were warm to me and invited me into their studio made me feel so good. And one day I approached in the hallway during a commercial timeout, and I said, Garry, after the Blackhawks game tonight, I want to pick up maybe an 8-ball and take this girl out who's been dying to get in bed with me. And you reached it, but I'm light. I got no money. You reached in your pocket and you had a handful of 100s, and you said, how much do you need?
Okay, yeah.
I'm not lying. I'm not lying.
Yeah, okay. I never carried hundreds around.
On that day, day, you had a pocket full of.
I would encourage you to buy illegal drugs. Yeah. Okay.
And you said, how much do you need? And I said, seriously?
Yeah.
You loaned me $300. You loaned me $300 that you had freaking on you.
Yeah.
And then said, pay me when you can, pay me in installments. I know you guys don't make any money. And I didn't go out and buy blow or get laid that night either, for that matter, but probably paid my car insurance.
Okay. Dan, thank you.
You're the best, Gary. Thanks.
All right. Dan McNeil right there. Dangerous Dan McNeil he is. All right, Leslie.
You took her to a pool hall and you bought her one of the little balls off the table, an 8-ball. Here you go. Or a magic one. Oh, wait, I've got one right here.
Yeah, that's the one he's talking about.
Yeah, there you
go.
That's
it. There it is.
It.
That's an 8-ball. Yeah.
Honey, let's see. What's your future? Yeah, anyway.
Is it good? All right. Why don't... What does it say?
Outlook. I can't even read. Outlook seems okay. I don't know. Anyway, you know what's funny? This interview, I'm having flashbacks.
Yeah.
But I was such a young, naive little girl. I realized, like, I thought it was cool, and I would hang with those Sporto guys. Not hang with them, like I'd just be in their vicinity, and they would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, because they're all giant.
And they were all so intense. And then they would like duct tape each other's asses shut and throw somebody into a closet and lock them in there. And it's like,
yeah, I had
went to an all-girls Catholic school.
Yeah, I had a front row
seat
seat to some of that stuff too. And you're right, it was unlike anything you can imagine.
So intense. Oh my God. But there were some who were so sweet. And I have to say, Gail was like the nicest man. And all I wanted to do was shake his hand to see like how huge that hand was. And it was big. But they were so nice. Some of them. Others were seriously teetering on this edge of I don't know what. And Dan was right there in smack dab in the middle of all of that.
All right.
Holy
well,
stuff.
Let's get our stuff together here. We need to preview what you're giving away.
So hashtag Da Bears. Let's go old school and ridiculous with this. But our friends from Oh Yes, of course, have been super generous. This week, I'm holding off on one of the Oh Yes t-shirts for good reason, but here you go. So guitar pick and bracelets and a koozie. Doggy Boy provided us with some t-shirts a while back, and you know, we do love the Schnauzer here on the show. So he's got a Schnauzer Search and Rescue Team t-shirt that he's provided. Tracy from Wisconsin, of course, is still giving us Slinkies along with gliders now and ball lickers and bendables. What else do we have going on? Scott from Scott's Vintage Antiques and Collectibles, of course, gives us fortune-telling fish. I personally picked up this Jeep, and I want to give away a Jeep on the show today.
Right.
So you've got that going on. Ellen Delinka, who's not with us today, provides us with your refrigerator magnets. You know what? I found these in the prize closet, and we haven't given one away in a while. These are really filthy adult pens, and so I'm just going to pull one out at random, and it says Calmere Tits. So you get a Calmere Tits pen. It's a pen.
Okay.
And finally, the prize that started it all, your very own
There
wine
it is,
condom.
the condom. Okay, hashtag the Bears in the queue, and the computer will pick the winner. Ryan, let's play homage to our fine sponsors.
Get the best sales and service experience now at Bettenhausen on 159th Street in Tinley Park. Bettenhausen has a new look, but the same automotive DNA lives on. Get Bettenhausen's no-hassle, no-haggle buying experience. Whether you're looking for a new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, or reliable certified used, Bettenhausen has the vehicle for you with over 900 to choose from. Plus, our state-of-the-art service department is here to keep your vehicle at top performance. Showroom and service scheduling never closes at BettenhausenCDJR.com.
And if you're looking for a mortgage or something related to that, this guy, for the free consultation at least, he'll give you the rundown on what your payments will be with your credit score and everything else. And yeah, free consultation. He's licensed in 43 states. David Hochberg, the man.
I think things are in a state of flux. So people who might not have wanted to refi in the past might want to refi now. And either way, whether things go up, down, or in between, David's going to talk you through all that.
That's right. Now, you have a couple stories?
I do, as a matter of fact. Do we want to talk to Ryan or do...
Is he available or is he busy?
I know he's doing double duty. We should mention there's nothing wrong with Alan. Alan is perfectly fine. He's actually on vacation.
A vacation from this show, really. He just wants the night off.
Yes, he wants the night off.
So
yeah,
what do you have?
I have a few pictures. Some here. Let me click this button.
There. These are the good old days. Look at that. Ice cold whiskey, a dispenser. Come on, ring the ding ding.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to our society? I don't see those anywhere anymore.
No. The only ones that look like that in the restrooms of the condom machines still in the truck stops. So.
Yeah, okay. And you're still thinking about taking a truck stop shower.
I am still taking the shower. When I get a time, I may explore that truck stop shower.
You have to do this.
Okay. Look at that.
Now,
that's the good old days.
Now, this is, again, yesteryear. It seems like as we go on and civilization falls apart more and more, we're going to be looking at these pictures like they never existed because it's not real. It doesn't seem real, but that's the way people lived. That's an airplane.
Mind you, this is that's first class on a 747.
It has to be. It's huge. Yeah. And look at they got the beautiful food cart out there. People well dressed. When was that?
Long gone.
They already had sneeze guards, so that's very civilized.
And this is the way we lived with the giant TV and the VHS and that giant furniture. Look at that.
Look at how big it is compared to the man, and that's not a small. I mean, that thing's huge.
Yeah, it's all cabinet.
Well, I always remember Roger Ebert talking about getting a laser disc player, and he knew as soon as he spent thousands and thousands of dollars on it that it was going to be obsolete in no time flat.
And the Beyond Sausage, packaging is everything. As the resident bartender of the GarrForce, Jenna, says, you drink with your eyes first, and the same thing with food. Yes, I see that on the shelf. I don't think so.
No.
Oh my!
It's Beyond Sausage.
It's beyond something.
If it were warmer, it might be. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. It wouldn't be that bad.
This was sent from a friend, but look at how the children traveled in those days.
Yeah, this is the good old time, the old timey days when you put the kid on some kind of seat in the front seat with a gigantic plastic steering wheel. Probably not. Sure. She's the kid strapped in. I can't.
No, don't look at it.
Maybe not. But the dashboard's made of metal, so don't you even worry about it.
Yeah, getting launched in about 10, 9, 8. And tell me about
hard to read.
The gravy hot tub. It's on the sign there.
Yeah, gravy hot tub. Tell me about
gravy hot tubs. That's a nice selling point.
Good old Days Inn. That's the motel.
All right.
This is out of Waukesha. So I don't know. A few months back, this couple was having sex in the jail lobby. They went to the jail lobby and did that and got arrested. And then recently they went to the laundromat and did it again.
And I love the age difference. He's 29. She's 67.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they didn't
I've
think
been
this.
watching this show on Netflix, and it's called Younger. Apparently, 7 seasons I have to get through, but it's a woman who's 40 and pretending she's 29, and maybe that's what was the inspiration for these two.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it?
That's it. That's
all
it.
right. Thanks, Ryan. Talk to you next week. Leslie, what do you got? Story or two?
The Houston Police Department has a big problem with dirty, stinking, thieving rats. And we're not talking about corrupt officers or, lawbreakers. Officials with the Houston PD announced last week that efforts are underway to sort through the department's main evidence room to remove outdated and corrupted materials stored there. Part of the impetus is an infestation of actual rats. Houston Mayor John Whitmire explained just how bad the situation is. Quote, just one example, we've got 400,000 pounds of marijuana in storage, and the rats are the only ones enjoying it. And it's not just marijuana either. Apparently, the rodents are also helping themselves to cocaine that's been there since the 90s, and more recently, shipments of psychedelic mushrooms. Those are just some of the over 1 million pieces of evidence being held by Houston PD, some of which are pertinent to unsolved and pending cases. Many more are items dating back decades that are no longer of any value.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of confiscated drugs.
And with that, it's where you don't just throw everything out, because it could actually be important to cases that are still pending. So
Can't they put it in plastic bins? Wouldn't that be the way to go? They just put it on a shelf?
Or maybe put rat traps outside. So I don't know.
You don't want Dan McNeil showing up there and trying to get that stuff.
Because he's got a date that night.
Yeah, you get an 8-ball.
Walgreens is finding out the hard way that locking up items to prevent theft is not only deterring shoplifters, but also paying customers as well. Walgreens CEO Tim Wentworth explains, quote, when you lock things up, you don't sell as many of them. Seems a lot of shoppers are unhappy with having to track down a store employee and then wait while they unlock sometimes multiple cases to get the items the customer wishes to buy. And while Walgreens is looking into alternative theft prevention approaches, it's hemorrhaging money. They saw an operating loss of $245 million last quarter. Compare that to the $39 million loss in the same period in 2023.
And that's why they're closing a lot of their stores.
There you go. And they're explaining that you just can't do business this way.
All right. That it?
Finally, one more. I got one more for you.
Okay.
A doctor in the UK will not only never be allowed to practice medicine again, he's also going to jail for operating an illegal mobile circumcision service, replete with rusty and unsanitary equipment, in addition to a staggering lack of proper anesthesia. Mohammed Siddiqui was working at the University Hospital Southampton when he decided to strike out on his own and begin performing door-to-door circumcisions on patients as old as 14. According to prosecutors, this painful cruelty to children ignored basic hygiene rules. But apparently the money was too good to pass up, since he had to have known what he was doing was wrong.
He's a dick doc.
He's a dick doc.
Yeah, dick doc.
Oh my God. Dude, Dude. How about you just go door to door and suture up small wounds or something? But
what a great service. All right, here we go. And Ryan, you want to
he only took tips. Good one, Greg. That was very good.
Here we go. Who's going to win all that stuff?
Let me get the music going.
Sure. You got it. You got it.
It's
Better than getting bills and catalogs. Nice wine condom. Christina. All right. Ryan, tell Christina what to do to get her stuff.
Send a message or leave a voicemail 773-888-2157 or email Garry Meier show at GarryMeier.com and Leslie will get your package out.
Yeah, you can text me at 773.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, there it is. Top of the hour, news, traffic, weather, and sports, and an update on the California fires, and we'll be back in 20 minutes. That's it. Thank you, and we'll talk to you on Monday. It is time for the cannoli coming down the aisle. It's delicious. Please take it. It's complimentary. What about the schnauzer this weekend?
Pray you don't take your schnauzer out somewhere and some footballer recognizes it and then holds somebody else captive with a knife to their throat saying, "Don't you look at my schnauzer."
Okay. That's a lot of instruction.
I've never heard that story.
No? The good old days. 3 in the green, gear is down, flaps are down. The Voice of the Globe, America's podcast. Thank you for watching. We have landed.
And that's all the news and nonsense for this week, GarrForce. Thank you for streaming.
If you like that, I got other stuff I think you're going to like. This is the GarrForce.
Please be sure to like and share the show on all of your social networks.
More eyeballs.
If you're not already a subscriber, show your support by subscribing to GarrForceLIVE YouTube channel. For those watching a replay, that button is right here. All the rest of our episodes, right here.
Boom.
Hello?
Shakalaka.
Did you click something?